Thank you so much for coming along to this session. In this session, we're going to be joined by Michelle Stein, who is a major donors consultant and stewardship extraordinaire. We'll be exploring a few key principles on how to make stewardship easier to implement and discussing examples that will bring our donors closer to your work and the impacts that you're creating. So over to you, Michelle. Thank you for coming along.
Thanks so much, Alex, and it's really lovely to be here with this group. I know that people are coming from different organizations, different sectors, different roles. So I'd love to get a sense around what this group, what makes up this group. I'm just going to close this and would love for you to, if you could, let me know what cause or sector do you work in? You just have to write that in. Let me know. What cause or sector do you work in so that I can see the group? Okay, we've got a few. We've got really heritage, health is a big one, homelessness, mental health, okay, we've got homelessness is the biggest one represented. Then we've got health, heritage, food. Oh, loving all this range of organizations. So thank you so much for sharing what sector you are in. Let me end that, and we can see. Great. That's a really nice range of organizations, with homelessness being the biggest one. We've got some hospices, health, food, heritage. Lovely. Welcome. Len, I would love to know what size team do you work in? Is it, let me know, actually you can read that yourself. So let me know. Okay, so far the biggest representation is from people who are in the 2 to 5 person team that you work in, is by far the biggest winner there. Great, love that, thank you. And so that way we have a clear winner there. And I'd love to raising. Click and let me know. Oh, we've got lots of people at 8 years plus, so that you could probably lead the session. That's great, but then also spread across a few different years. Welcome to the ones who are still learning the ropes. That's lovely. Great. Perfect. What income stream do you spend most of your time on? Let me know what it is. Ooh, we've got a lot of trusts and foundations. We've got a lot of little bits of everything. Great, a little bit of everything. Lovely. Perfect. Okay, great. That's so helpful to me. Thank you for sharing. And do you have a structured stewardship plan in place? Let me know. It's just a yes or a no. Okay, more no's than yeses here. And for those who said yes, will be great to get your insights on what's working or not working. Perfect. So let me end that. And then the last thing I want to find out from you, importantly, is what energy are you bringing to today's session? Let me know on the sheep scale, you can just click on the image that resonates with you today. What is the energy that you are feeling with today's session? Let me know. We've got a mix. Oh, I'm sorry for people who are numbers 4 and 5, not too many number 9s. That's great. Okay, so we've got a real mix here, and we will take it slow because some people are having a bit of a rough day. Not everyone's got a spring in their step. So thank you. That's so helpful. I really appreciate the sharing that and the insight that you've given me. So let's kick off, and I wanted to let me just stop this and end this. So I wanted to ask you, this is the big question. What is one of the best presents you have ever received? Have a think. And before you tell me, it doesn't need to be the most expensive present. And for those of you who have children or a pet, I'm going to put those to a side. So let's not include children and pets, but something else. What is the best present you've received? I'm going to split you up into groups, into pairs actually, and I would love for you to introduce yourself to your partner and share with them what the best present was that you received and why it was the case, and then swap, and we'll come back. And I'll give you like 5 or 6 minutes to share with someone. So I'm going to start off those groups, and as I said, you'll be put into pairs, and we'll come back in 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome. Just going to mute everyone. Thank you. I know some people had some tech issues, so appreciate, really appreciate that that people sorted that out or managed to make it happen. So welcome back. Let me just mute everyone. And would love to hear. Oh, let me just mute everyone again. Would love to hear what. Yes. Oh, I thought I had a prompt slide, but to say, would love to hear what are people's reflections from that exercise. Anybody want to share anything or put something in the chat based on the discussion around the best present that you've received? Anybody want to go, or?
I'm happy to say.
Go for it, Laura.
No worries. So I spoke with Alex, and we both similarly were given gifts that had a lot of thought behind them. So rather than physical gifts, we were both gifted things that had a lot of meaning behind them. So Alex's partner created a playlist for her of all of her favourite songs. Similarly, my partner, I'd never really been in a relationship prior to being with my current partner where the person really put a lot of thought into gifts, and when I got with my current partner, he took me for a weekend in London, and he had really listened to all the things throughout the year that I said I'd always wanted to do. So for example, as a child, I'd always wanted to go to Madame Tussauds and I'd never been, so he took me there. Whilst we were there, we had an afternoon tea, which was my favourite thing in the whole world, so he'd sort of booked that. He took me to the First Dates restaurant, which was my favourite programme at the time, and also got to see the show Wicked, which I'd always wanted to see. So rather expensive birthday present, but more than that, I was really sort of taken back by how much thought he'd put into it. So that probably has to be my favourite birthday present.
Oh, I love that, Laura. Thank you for sharing. I'm envious that you got to go to the First Dates restaurant. That is, and all those things. It shows that there was so much thought to each of those elements of the weekend. Thank you for sharing. Jake, do you have a reflection? Do you want to unmute? Or you're going to type something? Let me know. Okay. Sorry you had a question about echoing in your room. Let me know. But I'm just going through also some of the comments around that it was tailored to your interests, thoughtful, someone had really listened to you, opening you up. Oh, beautiful, Bex, that opening up to new experiences and memory making. Rachel, you said practical gifts, but also that there was the thoughtful element. Gifts of time are also important. And Jess, thank you for that reflection as well, that there were unexpected gifts that anticipated our needs and showed care and consideration. I wanted to show you one of my best gifts that I've ever received, which I got earlier this year. So this, now you can see, I feel like an influencer, this is another fundraising consultant who I sometimes we collaborate on things. I met her at the beginning of the year, and she presented me with this box, and she said, "Oh, I haven't given you a Christmas present." And we don't exchange Christmas presents, so it wasn't like I was expecting it. And she had gotten a mug printed with my business logo on, and it says at the back, Michelle, aka the boss. And I was just so blown away because I didn't expect it. We don't exchange Christmas presents. So it was an unexpected time, and it was so personal. I never had anything branded with any of my business stuff before, and she had gone to the effort to do it. I don't think that it cost her huge amounts of money, but it was the effort that she got my logo lifted on my website, that she got it printed. And I just wanted us to reflect when we're thinking about stewardship, because I've often been in the situation where I've had other organization envy, that if I was at a bigger organization, if I was an organization that had more money, I could do these very elaborate, over-the-top stewardship displays of value and affection to our donors. But actually, when we think about the presents that have had the lasting impact on us, that are really special, that they often weren't for a specific occasion. So it might be something out of the blue. It's not necessarily something that's coming on your birthday, or Christmas. It showed that the giver really knew you. So they really understood what is personal to you, whether it's your business logo or what a perfect weekend in London would look like. They're not always expensive. Sometimes they can be, and I know a few people mentioned experiences, so trips can be expensive, but they're not always expensive. It's about the thought. A playlist doesn't cost money. It's about the thought that goes into it. But it's about the personal and thought, and it makes us all feel really understood and seen as people. And I wanted us to go in with those principles when we're talking about stewardship, because they apply, the elements that are a amazing present are also going to apply to stewardship. And when I think about my experiences with stewardship, that I often felt like, it's just the reporting and it's the drudgery and it's the tick boxing for those trust and foundation people who, you've got to meet all those deadlines. Then it's for some, like I said, I had so much envy around people who had huge budgets to do amazing things with stewardship. But when we go back to the principles, which is what I want us to continue remembering throughout today's session, those are the same principles of the best gift that we want to apply to our stewardship. How can we apply that to our donors? So let's kick off, and we can look at a few ways to make stewardship easy. And that being said, those principles remain, but I wanted to show you some ways to make stewardship efficient and easy for you. And then we'll get into some of the how to make it super personal and amazing. So let's look at, let me show you here, is what I call the 4 pillars of stewardship. Now, I know that this is not exactly, going to be exactly how you look at it, but when I think of stewardship, I think about these 4 pillars that make up stewardship, and it helps me to think through stewardship in an easy way. And the first pillar is thanking. So when it comes to our stewardship, that's where it starts. How do we show someone, when it comes to thanking, that they've made a good decision by supporting us? How do we already show them that we value them? And that could look like, as we know, making sure that it's timely, but also ensuring for those high value, can I just call them high value relationships, which are corporates, trusts and foundations, major donors, that we really know them. So think about who could be doing the thanking when it comes to your thanking piece. Is it that they are different people who are going to thank? Could it be that they receive a phone call from one person and they receive a letter from another person? And who within the entire organization is the right person? So if I have donors that it's very important to them about being recognized, can my chairperson sign the letter? Can one of my board members? Can another high-profile donor? Can my chief executive? Or is it someone who's what I call my affinity donors or my philanthropy donors who are really close to the cause, who have some kind of connection there? Would they appreciate a thank you letter from someone who's a project worker or from one of our beneficiaries or clients, if that's possible? Can I, as the fundraiser, write the thank you? Do you have an ambassador who could write the thank you? A volunteer? So thinking through this range of different people who could do the thanking on your behalf, and that it could be a mix. So who's going to do the phone call? Who's going to do the letter? Can there be people who could write a personal note? Can there be a video, a WhatsApp? That's a WhatsApp video that's sent to someone. So thinking about thanking as that one pillar of stewardship. The next pillar is what I think about is reporting. And this is what is typically for our trust and foundation people or corporate are going to be agreed in advance. This is what you say, this is what we're going to send to you. It is sometimes not possible to change it. That's what it is. And when it comes to reporting, how do we make sure that, again, going back to if I'm thinking about the principles of the best gift, how do we make sure that the reporting reflects that we know this organization, that our donor, that we know what they're interested in? That means that we have to really understand our donors before we even start the stewardship piece. We have to ask them in our meetings how they want to be stewarded, how they want to be looked after, by asking them open-ended questions like, how do you like to be communicated with? What would success look like to you? How would you like your family to be involved in your giving? How would you like your employees to be involved in your giving? How would you like your if we're talking about corporates, how would you like your clients, service users to customers to be involved in your giving, so that then we can incorporate that when it comes to the reporting. And when, like I said, I felt a bit like stewardship, felt like a bit like dread, like just dread about the reporting, I didn't think that reporting is just one element of the whole stewardship process. The reporting is the wedding present, the birthday present, it's the Christmas present. It's I have to do this. I don't know what I'm going to give sometimes. It's expected, it's agreed upon before, but it's not often the place where I can really shine. It's not where I can put my playlist. It's not where I can come up with a weekend away. It's not where I can do my personalized mug. But it is a requirement, and I have to accept that, but it's just one pillar. And then events. So when I think of events, I think this could range from anything from a meeting with one with you, with a project worker, with your chief executive, with someone from your board. It could be a really extravagant and very big event if you put those kinds of events on. It could be an event where it's just your donors coming together, your key donors, to have drinks and hear from a project worker about the work that you do. It could be what I call my business breakfasts, which are just 90 minutes before work, somewhere central, so that if people are working in an office space, it's easy to get to. I just have to put on some pastries and coffee and fruit. And can I have an interesting speaker, a hook that can get someone there? Is there something with events that, again, can demonstrate to my donors that I'm speaking to what they're interested in? And that's why I need to know beforehand, when I am building my relationship, when I'm asking lots of open-ended questions to my potential donors, the stewardship question or what our partnership question are some key questions that I want to be asking. And that can inform my events. So if my donors, if I say to them, how important is it to you that you network through your charitable giving, that will give me the answer to whether an event is important for my donors. Because donors are just like us. Some people love going to events and love meeting strangers. Other people, couldn't care less, and it will have to be something amazing to get them out of their pajamas and whatever they're watching on Netflix. So think about that. Your donors have these different personalities. They have their different needs. How can your events speak to these different kinds of donors and what their interests are? And then my last pillar that I think about is where I'm putting everything else, where I'm talking engagement. So this is where I'm thinking about things like short impact report, a story that I see, something that I wanted to share with my donor, what I call, I saw this and I thought of you, which doesn't always have to be something that's related to the work. But again, if we know our donors and we've asked lots of beautiful open-ended questions when we are meeting with them to build the relationship to the point where we receive the gift, how can we show them that we know them? Is it a TV show that they mentioned that you want to share? Is it a place that they visited on holiday that you saw something about that you want to share a link to? It could be stories from the work that you've done. It could just be a quick update. It could be, I was at this meeting and we mentioned this and I thought of you and I wanted to share what happened in that meeting. It is, I was talking to this person and they mentioned you and I wanted to check in and find out how you are. It's not, again, it's the stuff that speaks to our best present. It's the unexpected. It's not on a reporting deadline. It's the things that are outside of it and the things that are really tailored to each of our donors. And when I'm thinking about these 4 pillars, the way that I can make it easier for myself when it comes to stewardship is to think about them through two different frameworks. Sorry. The first is that I want to plot it on a calendar. So as soon as someone becomes a donor, or it's the beginning of my financial year or my calendar year, I want to look over the next 12 months. How can I plot out what are these 4 different pillars of stewardship, so that I am ensuring that there is something at a different, every single month or 2 months, depending on your organization, that there's some touch point when it comes to the stewardship. And then it's a mix of things, that I'm not just sending event invites or having events for the sake of having events when I don't need to, when it could just be a little note, I saw this and I thought of you. It could just be a story that you've seen that you wanted to share. So making sure that, yes, my reporting deadlines are in there, and I've set up my CRM or my spreadsheet so I know when to report on those reporting deadlines, but that is just one pillar. How can I make sure that the thanking is done, and then that the events and engagement piece are spread throughout the year, and it's not just concentrated on one area and then they never hear from us again, and then it's time for the next gift. So thinking about my calendar is how I want to plot all these pieces of stewardship. And then the other thing that I want to do, the other framework that is helpful, is to plot it on a matrix. And this is where, and sorry, this is so tiny, but you can see that on the left-hand side, what I've put is I've listed every single stewardship opportunity in the organization. And it ranges from who the thank you letter is from. So is the thank you letter from our chief exec? Is it from our royal patron? Is it from a fundraiser? Is it from another ambassador? Where they featured? Are they featured on our website? Are they featured in our annual report? What events are they invited to? What reporting do they get? Is it a video report? Is it bespoke? And then I've plotted based on the group size, the sizing of gift. And I see what everyone gets at every level. This one is particularly complicated because it was a large organization, and therefore we have to complicate things. So we had it for donors, what people get if they're a donor, what someone gets if they're an influencer. This was in the pre-Instagram years. So this was if someone actually had influence over a gift, say a grant manager, a PA, a wealth advisor, what would they get in terms of stewardship? And then we also had a prospect list because this was an international organization. So we did international trips to see the work, and we needed to decide what is the potential gift someone could give before they could, if they had the potential to give a big gift, at what level that needed to be for them to come on a trip. So, but you could make it something that's much, much simpler. Like this is a very simple stewardship matrix. It's just got all the different stewardship options and what people get at the different levels. And I find it so useful because then it's very, very clear what do we have to offer? Do we have things in each of the pillars? And what are people getting at each level? And it's also useful if you are working with other members of staff. So share this with your chief executive director, share it with your board. I don't know, I've been in situations where my board has promised the world to someone who's given a very small gift. I've had situations where the executive director has a very different number to what they prepared to meet in terms of like size of gift donor, because they're not like a forward-facing, kind of personable donor-facing executive director. So they were very clear. They had a different number in mind around what someone needed to give in order for them to meet with that donor. I know that might sound foreign for organizations where the executive director is super open and personable and is very donor-facing. But if they think that they will only meet donors who have the capacity to give £10,000 and in your mind it's £5,000, it's worth clearing that up. Here's another one. This was donors who started as not just high value, but actually like joined the newsletter, then signed up and they could also sign up for gifts in kind. And then they had all the conferences that they attend. Those are stewardship opportunities. Are they going to meet up with them? What are they going to offer them? And so it had so many different columns, because it started from someone signs up to their newsletter. What does that stewardship look like? To someone is giving us, this organization got funding from Mackenzie Scott. So what is someone who's giving us $5 million? What do they get? And in addition to thinking through those 4 different categories, in terms of, do we have enough events? Do we have enough engagement opportunities? Are we doing enough? What's agreed upon reporting? And if not, what are we going to agree that people get? Is it every 3 months, every 6 months, 12 months? What is it? It's also helpful to future-proof. So when I'm putting together my matrix, I mustn't just put it together for what the organization is now and what gifts you receive now. But what happens if someone is going to give you £100,000 in 2 years' time, and that's currently a gift that you could never imagine that you would receive? If they give you that gift, what would that look like for you in terms of stewardship? Have you given all the stewardship for someone who's giving £50,000? Or maybe it is that someone who's giving £50,000 and £100,000 will get the same thing. But it just helps you to start thinking about, what are we giving people at different levels? How do we divide up those levels for our organization? And how can we make sure that it's consistent? Because if you're working for those who are doing a little bit of everything, how do you make sure that what your corporate partners are getting is consistent with your major donors, is consistent with your trusts and foundations? Because those donors might be talking to one another. You want them to have the same experience depending on what level of gift you're giving. So these 2 frameworks, the calendar, which is what I'm plotting out for the experience of the donor and what it will feel like for them, plus this matrix, which is both an external tool for that experience, but also an internal tool, so that I can be reassured we know what everyone is going to get, can be so helpful when it comes to thinking about those 4 pillars of stewardship. How's everyone feeling? Let me know with an emoji. Everyone on track? Helpful, not helpful? Great. Okay, good. Like I said, I know that some people already said they have a structured stewardship plan in place. So you may already have this. And when it comes to questions, we can discuss what it is that we're going to be doing. What it is that we can discuss how it has worked for you in terms of your structured stewardship. But these 2 elements, the calendar and the matrix, are for me key to make stewardship then, I don't want to say a breeze because it is work, but it just makes it so much more efficient when there's not a discussion, a fight, thinking about what are we going to offer, what's next. And I've seen with clients when we do the plotting on the calendar that often people think, oh, we need like 1,000 events. And then when we've plotted on the calendar, we see, oh, actually there are 3 opportunities this year for someone to engage with you in events. We don't need the other 997 events that are happening. It's not necessary because we have touch points at every part of the year. Or as I said, we see that there's only one kind of touch point. There's only the reporting. How do we make sure that there's some reporting, some engagement, some events, and of course the thanking? So those things can help, our calendar and our matrix. And then when it comes to the engagement piece, let me close this up. It's how do we, how then do we get, I call it the fun stuff. It's not just the fun stuff, but how do we then really get to the part of our stewardship where we are giving them the thoughtfulness, the personal gift. We want to keep those same principles, but we want to bring them to our stewardship. And they can't always happen with reporting, but they can happen in other ways. So I just wanted to open this up, but obviously it's not going to open up for me because this is a live session. So why would it make it easy for me? So let me see if I can stop it. So you know what, I'll just, let me do here and let's see if it will go through to the next one. Okay, you'll just have to believe me, even though I don't have proof in a slide. But when it comes to doing that, now if I'm thinking back to all those beautiful descriptions around your gifts, is how do we make those gifts, how do we replicate that when it comes to stewardship? And the first element, as I said, is happens before stewardship. It's asking lots of beautifully open-ended questions to our donors to understand who they are. And I don't just mean like, do they have 2 kids and a dog and a cat and what kind of animals they have, or those kinds of surface level things. I mean, the things that are about their motivations and their values. So that could be asking people things like, where does your philanthropic spirit come from? Or to what do you owe your business success? Or if we're going to meet someone at a trust and foundation, what would make your life easy in this role? How can I help you out? What challenges are you facing in your work? How can I support you to overcome them? How can I make it easy for you? So that is what I'm thinking when at the start is not just about that comes in stewardship. Obviously, it's a continuation of the discussion, but it is then happens before. It's asking open-ended questions in the process of building those relationships around what does success look like to you? How would you like your family to involved? How do you like to be communicated with? How important is it to you that you coming to events? What are the best communication platforms to contact you on? So all those things are helpful when it comes to thinking about giving someone the best experience, that it needs to happen in the stages of building the relationship with lots of open-ended questions. And then when I'm thinking about my engagement pillar, once I know that information, that fourth pillar, that engagement pillar, where I'm just throwing everything else in, and the kitchen sink when it comes to stewardship, things that don't fit into thanking and reporting and the events, then I can be super creative and thoughtful in my stewardship. And like I said, I don't know why this is having a meltdown, but when I'm thinking, how can I make it thoughtful? And it doesn't need to cost loads of money. It can just be about the thought of it, the intention that I know someone. So if, let's just say I had let's just say that my slides were working now, what you would see is I love going onto Pinterest and I love looking at ideas that I could borrow to see how it could be in my work. That's the way that I feel inspired. That might not work for you. I know not everyone is into that, and I know that might not suit every donor. But some things that then spark that engagement piece, which is about being thoughtful, is instead of a thank you letter, maybe you send some thank you magnets, and those magnets are branded have some photos of your organization or have your branding on it, and they say thank you. And they're nice magnets, and they're not that expensive to make. They can put them on their fridge. They'll think about you every single day. What if when it comes to our long-standing donors, or maybe it's long-standing volunteers, I don't know if anyone here deals with volunteers, who we want to show them how much we value them and their, whether they reached a gift milestone or been a long-standing funder, that we have a stack of letters. And I saw this on Pinterest that for like someone's 60th birthday, every family member wrote a letter to this person, and they just then received 60 envelopes with 60 letters from family members. Or they had 60, I think it was like sayings or beautiful words of, wisdom that they wanted to share with this individual. Could you replicate that for someone who is been a long-standing donor? Could you get, if it's someone's been for 5 years, 5 different people in your organization, to put together and share with them a stack of letters? It's what it takes is time, and that's what people really value, as opposed to it takes loads of money. So that's another way to think about it, is going onto Pinterest and seeing what creative ideas could I bring to some of the engagement piece, or one of those 4 pillars of stewardship. Another rule that I find helpful to think about when I'm thinking about this creative side of stewardship is I ask myself the question, like, what would happen if this was not the case? Or why does this have to be the case? So if I think to myself, okay, when we thank someone, we send them a letter. Okay, now I need to unpack that. What would happen if that was not the rule? What would we send them if we did not have to send them a letter? Could we send them a video? Could we send them, and again, if this was working, I would show you that I have this dream to send someone a thank you letter for an education charity that's in like a bottle, and it's filled with crayons or pencils. Does the thanking, does it have to be in a letter? What could that look like? Our magnet idea. Could I make some tea bags and have little thank you notes at the end of the little, tags at the end of the tea bags that relate somehow to my work that I'm doing? What if it doesn't? Is that a specific rule? How can I make sure that is not, like, can I question whether I have to do it that way? Whether thanking means that we send a letter? Or when it comes to reporting, does reporting mean that we have to send someone a paper report? What happens if it's just a video? What happens if it's a documentary? What happens if it's asking someone to complete a treasure map? What happens if it's a coloring in book? What happens if it's something that's sent to their kids because they like their family to be involved, that they can use to draw in? I've found that if you put in, if any of you use AI, if you use Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, put in the kinds of donor that you're working with. Obviously, don't name them and don't share the confidential information, but say that this is the kind of donor, and what do they value, what are their motivations, is what they're interested in, and then you ask and share about your organization and ask for some ideas around stewardship, and can it come up with some of those creative, amazing ideas, those thoughtful touches that will be helpful. If I think about and then an engagement piece, I saw this and I thought of you. Sharing something that is a video or a story or an article or an item, a small item that you saw that you shared. I worked with a donor who was supporting a project in Zambia, and I was in the supermarket and I saw that there was some honey from Zambia. I just packaged it up. Wasn't that much money, sent to them, and then said, I saw this and I thought of you because you are, even though it wasn't, we weren't a honey charity and there was nothing specific, it wasn't honey related, but they were like, oh, that's so kind. That's amazing. That's so nice that you have thought of us in that way. So thinking about those kinds of things. I know I'm at time, but to say, and apologies that I have now said, please be on butter, and I'm stuck and I don't have the visual to show you, but to say, can you think about creative ways? Can you ask yourself the question, does this have to be the case? Do I have to have a thank you letter that looks like it's a report? What would it be if we didn't have that, if we broke the rules around that? And how can I find ways to show my donor that I'm thinking about them, whether that's something that I've read, something that I've heard, or an actual physical item. So Alex, I'm going to end there, and I'm going to just see if I can sort this out so you can have an image, but you'll just have to believe me. And I can share Pinterest boards with some ideas that I have around stewardship that have just inspired me. But like I said, I know that that's not relevant for every fundraiser, if that's not your vibe at all. And it also might not be for every donor. But it just helps me start thinking, okay, How could I think about this differently that it will make it stand out? So I think that's it for in terms of stewardship. I mean, that's it. We can spend lots of time, but think about the principles that make an amazing gift, a special gift. How could you incorporate those into a stewardship? Think about stewardship and those 4 different pillars: thanking, events, engagement, and reporting. Can you plot them out on a calendar? Can you plot them out on a matrix? And then when it comes to that engagement pillar, that for me is the most fun, how can you ask questions beforehand which show that you are really interested in giving someone an exceptional experience? Those are open-ended questions which are about the partnership, not just about the project or about that person's relationship to your organization. And then thinking about how could I do it creatively, ask myself the question, what would happen if this was not the case, to bring that person closer to my organization. So I think I'm definitely at time.
Thank you. Now we've got 5 minutes, so we can open it up for questions. There was a couple of questions around the slides, and just wondering if it would be possible to have one of the examples sent out, which we could send out with our next mailer. So if that's okay, Michelle, we can arrange that.
And also what I will say is that at the end of this, Bata will ask you for your email address. So if you pop your email address in, you'll have access to the recording, the slides, the polls. You'll even see the slides that I didn't even get to because they're not working. So So if you pop your email in, it will give you access to that. But I'll also share the link, so you'll have all these things as well.
Fantastic. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please across on the left hand side, if you see the finger pointing up, and then there's I have a question, or you can add something to the chat. I was just having a look through, and Jenny gave a really good example around stewardship and having that piece around engaging personally, and she let us know that Copperfield are really good. They got a Polaroid of Snowdon against the night sky after doing a fundraising trek, and after another event she received a summer camp style flag with the event and the year on it. And it kind of makes a huge difference in terms of, I guess, having returning donors as well, and those who would like to continue running events with you.
I love those ideas, and it reminds me that I was at a kid's birthday party, and they actually had a professional photographer that took all photos of the parents and the kids, and then you received those as the party favors. And she said, they're just so beautiful. And she said, as a family, you don't often have a professional like taking beautiful photos of you. It's something really nice. And I thought to myself, wow, if you had a professional photographer at an event that is taking beautiful photos of your attendees, then that's something that you could send to them. They would really value that. And it doesn't, again, there's a little expense there, but it doesn't need to be crazy expensive. Most people with a good phone could take really beautiful photos. So just thinking about things, to Jenny's point, that build memories for someone, show how much recognition and value you're placing on their attendance or them being part of something.
Absolutely. I don't know if there's any other questions at all. Happy to open it up to the floor if anyone has anything that they wanted to add. No? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for joining and going through the 4 pillars of stewardship. It was really fascinating, and I think there's a lot that people have been able to take away from it. I'll just add the Bristol fundraising group email address to the chat, so if anyone needs to get in touch with us about any of the future events, then please do. The next event is in person, and this one is on the 16th of July, an evening networking event. So we'll be sending out the details for that on Friday. But yeah, thank you so much, Michelle, and we're all going to get a bit more creative, hopefully.
Oh, you're so welcome. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear how your stewardship goes, if this has prompted any ideas or new ways of thinking. It would be great to hear. So thank you so much for joining.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.